This episode is brought to you by Radio Mastery. Radio Mastery helps radio professionals to dominate their market and reach number one. Apply today at radiomastery.com.au. And happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to Biz Audio. My name's Max, and the news of Friday last week. Kyle Sandilands joined the Game Changers podcast to announce Kyle Daily or Kyle Sandilands Live. I'm not sure which one's the actual name, but the big news, it'll be 6 to 10 a.m., Monday to Friday, subscription via an app. Now, I think a lot of people are skeptical about that, whether or not people will pay due to the fact that he was doing the show for free for the past, 25 years? But I think that Kyle does have a lot of diehard fans, and he will get some sponsors, I'm sure of that. He even has billionaires backing him, so that's really good to see there. I'm excited to see what it will look like, and there'll be some familiar voices. But Brooklyn Ross, the newsreader from the Kyle and Jackie O Show, has announced he will not be joining Kyle, and he'll be remaining on KIIS Breakfast with Mike E. and all the other producers. They have Nat and I think Alec as well. And I'm sorry if I'm forgetting anyone there. But over to Tasmania, where last week Dan and Christy were axed, but Dan Taylor and Christy Hayes have launched a brand new podcast. The show will most likely be very similar to their radio show in Tasmania. It'll be available 5 days a week from 5 a.m. wherever you get your podcasts. And Newcastle's Jess and Rohan are now broadcasting into Hobart from New South Wales. So that's really extreme. Going into a different state, not even close. You got, Tasmania's all the way down, well, of course, at the bottom of the country. And then you have Newcastle up in the topper end of New South Wales. So that's interesting from my perspective there. And we have Triple M's Josh Olick has been appointed the content director at Ballarat's Power FM and 3BA. After almost 15 years of making content in radio stations around Australia, there's a new adventure on the horizon, he posted. And of course, 3BA and Power FM are owned by ARN down in Victoria. And the big news of the day, Kris has ruled out KIIS Breakfast in 2027. ARN had said that they held talks with him. And at 2 p.m. this afternoon, ARN revealed that he will be no longer in contention for hosting KIIS Brekkie in 2027. He currently hosts The Breakfast Show on Virgin Radio Dubai. And he said, 19 years ago, I left Sydney, Australia. I packed up my life, took a chance, and moved to Dubai. Back then, I never knew what was waiting for me here. A month ago, I was offered my dream job back home in Sydney. My entire family is in Sydney. My roots are there. My childhood is there. My aging mum and dad. So for the last few weeks, I've spent countless hours thinking, taking, negotiating, praying, and trying to work out what the right decision was. And after all of that, I've made my choice. Interesting to see there. And he has announced he's signed a 1-year contract with Virgin Radio, continuing on The Breakfast Show. And there's some news at the Super Radio Network strengthening the 2SM name, with Mike Williams hosting a few shows this weekend from 12 midnight to 5 a.m. Friday to Saturday, 13/12/69 he posted on Facebook. And sometime over the next week, we will have a very special Workday announcer joining us on Biz Audio, Gordy Waters. I had the absolute pleasure of joining him on Saturday afternoon in the KIIS North Sydney studios. It was an honour to be back in those studios. It was a bit weird though. Last time I was in those offices was when Kyle and Jackie O were there. It felt much more quieter. Not that there was anyone in the office, but it was great to sit there in the studio and have a really deep conversation with him about his career so far. Of course, check us out on the socials at Biz Audio on Facebook and LinkedIn, and at biz_audio on Instagram. We'll catch you all tomorrow.